EVO.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Finding Me. I am Josh Wolf. This is a daily journal / podcast that I'm doing to help hold myself accountable to be the most authentic version of myself, and also to be, the person that I want to be, and this is the best way that I know how to do it. If I make myself do this podcast every day, it's helping the parts of me that I feel like need the most help. And so I'm dedicated to doing this for myself. And along the way, I hope that it helps you with your authenticity and your accountability. You know, I say this to myself every day. Every day I remind myself that I am enough. And that's such a big thing, man, you know, with this day of social media and constant comparison. And so there's nobody like me and there's nobody like you, man. You know what I mean? You're one of one, a complete unicorn. So lean into that, you know. And it's funny, I have to tell you that since I've started doing this and really doing other work on myself, my social media time is way down. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in doom scrolling. I'm not interested in checking to see how many people like my videos. I'm not interested in seeing how many people, you know, leave a positive comment. I'm really just interested in doing things that I like and spending time with people that I love and doing the work that I like. I love doing stand-up, you know. I found some new material recently, and I think a lot of that is just I've just cleared up space in my head where I was worrying about other shit. And I've only been doing this for a couple of weeks now, but part of that, it can't be a coincidence, you know? So I'm really excited about this. And thank you for being here. And I really hope that along the way, this helps you too, somehow, you know? And it reminds me that you are enough. And you are one of one, and you are a unicorn. And to lean into that instead of leaning into what other people think about you. Or did it just, I thought it just clicked. I thought the Roadmaster just gave me another.
Oh, it did. You fuck.
It's, guys, I don't know if I'm going to fix the Roadcaster, and I'm going to tell you why. It tests my patience in such technologies, and it tests my patience in such a crazy way. But I do want to say something before I get into this, okay? The fact that this Roadcaster switches by itself. Last night in this office, some things just turned on. Like, I wonder if there's a little something in here. I'm not a guy who doesn't believe in spirits. This changes all the time. I had to unplug these things because they just kept turning on. So stay tuned. My butthole's puckering just thinking about it. But this is the first week where we decided to kind of theme the week and to kind of stay on track with, and I got myself a new Finding Me notebook, everybody, because like I said yesterday, the universe kind of tested me, and I'm giving the middle finger right back. But we're in the health week, and when I say health, I just mean what I think started me on this journey of trying to figure out not just being healthy in front of a mirror and looking good, and not just going to the doctor so they treat symptoms, but getting underneath and realizing that you can stop the illnesses before they happen. You can stop disease before it happens. You can prevent injury a lot of times before it happens by the way you take care of your body on the inside, you know? So when I left you yesterday, Beth and I had just walked out of our house naked, never to go back. And I'll tell you, man, I remember going to a doctor and he didn't believe in the mold poisoning. I think a lot of traditional guys, and it may be changing now, but back then, they were just like, that mold stuff is bullshit. Mold's everywhere. It's everywhere. So everybody would be mold sick. And that's just not true. It's just not. So, but yeah, because the guy, they were talking about like treating symptoms that I had. One guy was like, oh, you may have lupus, or you may, I got to tell you a funny story about lupus, although not funny. We had a friend who swore she had lupus, doctor treating her lupus. You're going to have this forever. Lupus. She went to a different doctor who was like, I don't think you have lupus. Tell me what you eat and drink every day. And she told him, and he said, do me a favor. Don't drink those Diet Cokes for 2 weeks. Tell me what happens with your lupus. And it went away. It was all the aspartame that she was drinking every day. Her body, she had done it for a decade or so. And her body just ended up having nowhere, it couldn't do anything with it. There was just too much of it. And so I remember her telling me that story and hearing doctors talk about, well, you probably have. And it's easy to put some of these environmental illnesses under things like lupus or fibromyalgia or just giant, very broad autoimmune shit, you know? But I knew that there was something wrong. I knew that, 3 years ago, I could smell perfume, but now if I got into a car, Uber that had one of those pine cones, literally, I felt like I was going insane. The chemicals in it, because of the mold poisoning, I was so sensitive to anything like that, any kind of fragrance. My brain, when I say it felt like my brain was on fire, guys, on fire and itchy all over. And there were spots on me burning. If I took my shirt off, when I look back at that, you could see mold on my skin. Sometimes I can tell when I'm having some mercury problems because I get a little rash right here. We'll get into the mercury later. I was pretty sick for a little while, man. And so I remember going to these doctors and they're like, that mold is bullshit. But none of the things that they were treating symptoms, but they would just come back. I wasn't being healed. And so finally, I really started to lean into what the mold people were saying. Like, you need to treat this mold. And Beth and I got on this stuff called cholestyramine, which was brutal on your system. Meaning it's like a binder. So it strips everything. So you couldn't eat anything 4 hours on either side of it. Because whatever you ate, minerals, vitamins, nutrients, was coming out. And so, but it really did. But it also backed me up like a motherfucker. But it was something that needed to be done. We ended up, just in case anybody's curious, you can take something right now that I take. I don't take as often as I should, but it's called Carboxy. It's way more mild. You can take it with vitamins, for God's sakes. But it really does take all the toxins out of your body. And it tastes basically like nothing. You take a tiny little scoop at night or in the morning or whatever the fuck you want to do it. And if you take it every day, it'll get rid of all the toxins in your body. It's fantastic. I think only one place sells it. It's called Cellcore, Cellcore. But anyways, Beth and I left the mold house, and I remember our first apartment we got, and I remember sleeping that first night, and it was like, wow, we fucking slept. But after a couple of days, in that place, we kind of realized, oh, this place is moldy too, just not as bad. And what would happen is we'd say to like this place, hey, you mind if we do a mold test? And they were like, yeah, no. They don't want a mold test. They don't want you to do a mold test. First of all, they don't want other people in the building to see you doing mold tests. That is bad for business, And so basically, if we've started to feel wonky, we would say to the people, do you mind if we do a mold test? And they were like, no. And they were like, well, we're moving out. And they'd say, you owe us money. I'd be like, cool. But when we go to court, we'll just let everybody know that you wouldn't let us do a mold test, And they were like, just get the fuck out of here. But we bounced around so much, man, that we ended up having so much of our stuff just in trash bags. We would throw trash bags of our stuff in the back of the car and just go to a different spot. I remember we moved to one place in Los Angeles, this tiny little place on Crescent Heights and Sunset. And we just, man, there was something not right about it. So we did sneak a mold person in to test it. And they went up to the vent. When they took the vent off, in the duct, there was 3 old beer cans and old rags that must have come from the people who built the place. They just left it in the air ducts. So all of that was just blowing into our apartment all day.
Let me tell you, I honestly think
that there's a spirit in this office. I really think that. The Roadcaster has a mind of its own. Last night, these 2 things just went on by themselves, and one of them, literally, the speaker,
a woman's
voice just started coming out of it. It was fucking wild. I might replace this Roadcaster, and if I do, and it starts doing that again, okay. Anyways, I got myself a new folder, a new notebook, a new journal for finding me. It's so funny how if I start talking and I get bumped off, that I don't remember anything I was saying. Anyways, I do have to say, and I think I want you to know, I started this podcast and I had to start over because Indiana was going crazy. And so there's some things that I think I said in the first part that I want to make sure I repeat. I'll do this at the end. There's something I want to tell you at the end. But I remember at this first apartment we went to, I was still pretty mold sick, and we had to change our diet. We did no sugar. We did no fruits. We did certain carbs weren't gone. We basically ate olives, no coffee, so much mold in coffee, no tea because of the tea bags. And we ate olives. We ate a lot of fucking olives. We ate olives. We ate some meat, fish. But when we looked at mold diet, we stuck to it strict. And we're at this new place, and I was having heart palpitations, and part of it was just what was happening, that we were so sick, and I was super anxious, and the moving and not knowing where we were going to live, and having, thrown out all my stuff. I had my very first panic attack that I had never had one before. So I was like, oh, I'm having a heart attack. And I remember the paramedics came, and Beth was like, well, you're going anyways. We're going. And I think the paramedics knew it was a anxiety panic attack, because when they put me in the back of the ambulance, they had a blue blanket and a pink blanket, and the guy was like, this one's for you. And he threw me the pink blanket. That was obviously, they were chuckling about it. That was obviously their little joke. That's how they decided if whoever was in the back was a pussy or not. I asked him, I go, pink blanket? And he goes, oh yeah, it just was whatever I had in my hand. I go, no, you had a blue one too. You checked with your partner. He was like, yeah, it's kind of our little joke. I was like, I love it. But so many health issues started popping up, man. And I started to see like perfumes, any kind of fragrances in an Uber, any, cleaning products. All of this stuff would make my brain feel it was like on fire. My skin was itchy. I'd have hot patches all over me. And this was, the way mold hits people is different. And it was fucking me up. It was fucking me up. There were times on the road where I always made sure that I rented a car. And by the way, I get in the rental cars now before they give them to me and I smell them. Because in a lot of the cold weather places, people get in and out of the cars with wet boots. So you get in, if you smell musty, mold. If you're in a house that has had a water leak, that you see water damage, if you've had like a toilet overflow, I think what the guy told me was 48 hours, if you haven't dried it out, mold. And so I was getting into cars, I would sniff them. And because I knew that if I got to the hotel and it was the newest hotel in town and I walked in and my brain started to get on fire and I would go and sleep in the car in the parking lot. That's how I would do my weekend. I would live out of the car. There were so many times where I never unzipped my bag or I would sleep with like a mask, right? But I wouldn't unzip my bag because I didn't want the duct to blow moldy air onto my clothes. Oh, I'm not, no lie. I didn't shower in a place where we lived for 2 years. It was such a trigger for me. The steam, the water on the ground. I did not want to add to any mold possibility. I showered at the gym and I showered on the road. It was like in my fucking brain. When Beth and I would go to eat, there were a place in Palm Springs that we loved, but we walked in, it was moldy. We just couldn't eat there. It was really dictating our lives because 1 hour meal in a moldy place of breathing it in fucked us up. And I remember the mold guy saying, one of the reasons you got to get out is because you can't treat yourself for mold while you're still breathing it. You got to be out of it entirely. And so it was a very trying time. But looking back on it, I'm so glad that it happened. It changed the way I looked at health, how to stay healthy, what environment you're putting yourself in, what's in the air, what's in the ground, what's on the walls, all
this shit, motherfucker.
all this shit that I would have never thought of before. I had so much inflammation in my body. And look, man, when I say we've been healthy for a while, Beth's been ahead of the curve. When we were gluten-free, when people just called us the crazy people who didn't eat bread, right? We were gluten-free. I remember someone was like, "You're gluten-free." I go, "Yeah." And they were like, "You don't eat bread." And I was like, "No." And they were like, "So you're Jewish?" I'm like, "Those three don't." Are you talking about matzah, dude? That's just for a week a year. Jews do eat bread. I don't know if you're familiar with challah, but we eat it, just not for a week. And he was like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah, pretty fucking positive." But that year tested so much of my relationships, and we bounced from place to place to place to place in LA. That year fucked up more relationships for me because I was still mold sick. So I still had crazy anxiety, but the moving from place to place and the complete uncertainty and the trash bags added a different level of desperation because everything was so out of control. I needed something desperately to be able to control. And so I think I fucked up some work relationships and life relationships just because I was a different human. a completely different human. And we're already bumping up against it now. I want to get to what I wanted to tell you, but this is I'll get back to all this mold stuff tomorrow. This already these 2 weeks, the show, I think I have to believe it is this show. I've already seen a decrease in my interest in social media and being on there and doom scrolling. I've seen an increase in how I have conversations, in my level of interest in conversations, in my presence and being present with
The people. I'm going to get into it.
Yes.
Into off.
God damn. There is definitely an entity here. I got to figure this out. And just being present, and this is who I want to be. I don't want to care about social media. I don't want to care about likes. I don't want to care about views. A good example is, so I put out a special last year, and all my other specials I would watch like a fucking hawk to see how the numbers were doing, and they were all fantastic. And this special, which was my favorite one I've ever done, I went back and I just looked the other day because I was like, oh, I wonder how this is doing. So October, this is 3-4 months later. It's performing. Look, I'm grateful. It's got like 380,000 views, but compared to the million plus that all my other ones have, it's underperformed in the craziest way. And 5 years ago, I would be spiraling. And it'd be dishonest to say I don't care. Obviously, you want people to see it and like it, but I'm so happy with it and how it came out. I can't control that other part, And so this show already is paying dividends for who I want to be, what I want to pay attention to, and where I want to put my energy. My parents are in town this week, and I'm basically doing no work except for this. And it feels great not to give a fuck about, I have somebody posting for me. I haven't looked. I don't know what they're posting, and I don't know what people are saying about it. I just know that I'm with my parents and I'm spending time with them. I just know that I'm looking forward to going to Batavia this weekend and hanging out with Jacob and Lisa and performing. I know that I'm super proud of Beth, who's writing and directing a movie for Netflix. The things that are important. Talk to my grandkids. I talked to my oldest son, Trevor, today. Like, instead of checking in on if random dude in Ohio likes my latest post, I'm checking in with people that I love. And it feels so much better. All right. I will pick up with health tomorrow. But listen, I want to remind you. Look, I'm not a guru. I'm not a self-help dude. I'm not trained in therapy. I don't know any of that shit. But I do know how good you feel when you focus on the things that you love and that you like and that bring you joy, and that you don't rage bait yourself or doom scroll. I do know that instead of yelling at somebody on the internet, it feels better just to go out and make an actual change in real life. You know what I mean? I do know that I've decided that being right, trying to make somebody see my point, is not important. It just isn't. I love that Keanu Reeves quote where he's like, if you tell me 1 + 1 = 5, I'm going to be like, all right, brother.
That's not it. That's not it. Fuck off.
Right? But that's how I feel. Brandon is the producer. Brandon, please tell me. Listen, is that thing is testing my patience so much? Is it funny? Or does it bother you all as much as it bothers me? I love you guys. We'll check in tomorrow. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. And this is Finding Me with Josh Wolf. Later.